Committee of the Whole is back in order. Colleagues, I'm going to once again read the rules of engagement as I read at the beginning of this session. Rules of engagement: 2 rounds for discussion on Chapter 1 relative to the adoption of revenues with the panelists. We have 2 rounds of questions for the panel, with each senator allotted 5 minutes for questions, not including responses. Colleagues, when we begin Chapter 5, discussion will be 5 minutes per senator. Any member wishing to question the panel will be recognized upon raising of a hand. Please be reminded that if you yield your time, only one person can yield their time to any colleague. Once that time is yielded, that time is gone and given up to that person to speak. After the completion of 2 rounds of questions, panelists will be excused. A reminder that amendments will not be entertained until after the panel is dismissed. 3rd round for amendments or comments speak on the chapter of the bill. Amendments not submitted in writing to the clerk and uploaded to Google Drive folder prior to the start of that chapter or section will be called out of order. Only amendments received before the start of chapter or section will be addressed in the order that they are received. The chairman will ask if there are any questions or comments on the section or chapter, and if none, declare the section or chapter is completed. If a request is made to bookmark part of the bill, the bookmark section will be considered only up until the end of that chapter, and it is the responsibility of the requesting senator to ensure the bookmark is addressed. Should the discussion or amendments to the chapter be completed, the bookmark is then retired with or without being addressed, my colleagues. I will continuously remind you of a bookmark before we get to the end of the chapter. Any senator who wishes to increase an appropriation to an agency or department must identify the funding source and explain the impacts on both the receiving agency and the funded agency, meaning we are only doing in these chapters a movement between revenues from agency to agency, not new appropriations.
That part is, you're not reading, Mr. Chair, you're making it up.
I'm telling you that's exactly what this means.
You're interpreting what it means when the words are very plain and clear.
You're interrupting my presentation.
Then you said you were going to read the rules, so I ask you to please read the rules and not make up anything in between.
Senator, I am reading the rules and I'm telling you what they mean. After we complete discussion of the bill, I will then close and I will make a motion for the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole. Senators, we are now on amendment.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
SB 266.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
L8 P54 2.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
State your point of order, Senator.
Yes, I'm going to cite the rule. It says, only amendments received before the start of that chapter or section will be addressed in the order that they are received. My amendment has been received before the start of this chapter. Any senator who wishes to increase an appropriation to an agency or department must identify the funding source and explain the impacts on both the receiving agency and the defunded agency.
Correct.
So I would like to explain my amendment as required by the rule and the impacts on any agency. This is an amendment notwithstanding any provision of law, that the sum of $20 million is appropriated from the fiscal year 2026 unaudited excess revenues for the refurbishment of the former Public Health Manilao facility. The money is going to go to an agency from excess revenues. It is not going to be taken from any other agency. So the answer is that there is no impact on any other agency because it's being taken from 2026 unaudited excess revenues, which BBMR and OFB both testified that there is sufficient amounts to cover this amount, so that is not a question. And this is critically needed to open up the Manilao clinic again after it was closed for years due to what they claimed was a fire, but insurance companies have told us there were no traces of fire. But according to nurses and the acting public health administrator, they said this clinic is critically needed because of the decrease in patients who came for care, most especially pregnant women and children, and because of Guam's very high infant mortality rate. And so what I would ask that we at least consider this amendment. You have the majority, you can vote it down if you don't like it, but I would ask my colleagues to support this amendment because
Thank you.
this would give them
I have ruled
an
that the
opportunity
amendment-
to move forward
Yeah. Thank
immediately
you.
without further delay,
You
as
have
was
stated
made in
your
the
point
last
of order.
4, 5,
Senator,
8
you have
years.
stated your point of order. I have ruled that this amendment belongs to be considered. It will be considered in the miscellaneous provisions. That is my ruling. Senators,
I
we
move
are
to
on.
overrule the chair, Mr. Speaker, and in making that motion, I would ask my colleagues that those who stand by and allow new rules to be made up in the middle of the game, that cannot demand that our chairperson comply with the rules that he laid out in the beginning of these proceedings, which is not a game, that they would, if they would allow that untruth, lies to be told in here, that they would allow that anywhere. They would allow that in procurement.
There has been a motion
no
to
matter what
overrule the
office they're
chair.
in,
There has
including
been a
those who
motion.
seek
Senator,
to
you
go
have made
to
your
Adelup.
motion. Senator, with due respect, you have made your motion. There's been a motion to overrule the chair. All in favor, please raise your hand.
Just try.
Motion fails. Senators, we are on amendment SFP L8 P54-2. I am also ruling this amendment out of order. It's an outright appropriation. It will be entertained
Objection,
in the
Mr.
miscellaneous
Chair.
provisions. There's been an objection. All in favor of sustaining the objection that's been made of my rule, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails.
Yes. Again, Mr. Chair,
Senators,
point of order. I
we
would
are
raise the
on-
same point of order that these amendments are all made perfectly in compliance with the rules that you laid out in the beginning of today's, or the
Yes.
session for our budget. And senators are working very hard to do the hard work, to put in the amendments that are necessary, to put them in before you begin the chapter, to put them in before we're able to ask OFB questions. And
Senator, the rules
to get their
of
fair
engagement
shake, I
have
think
been
is
made,
only fair.
And this body continues to support not only my ruling, but to support the rules of engagement. Senator, so
The
you can
rule of
continue
engagement,
to
Mr. Chair,
object.
point of order. Any
Yes.
senator wishes to increase an appropriation must identify the funding source and explain the impacts on both the receiving agency and the defunded agency.
Senator, we have exhausted that argument.
That is the rule, not an
Senators,
argument.
is there support for the objection on my ruling the amendment out of order? Seeing and hearing none,
Yes.
order
Yes.
stands. Senators, we are now on SFP 266 L8 P54 Part 3. I am ruling that out of order. For
Point
the
of
same
order, Mr.
reason.
Chair.
It's an outright appropriation and will be
It is an outright
entertained
appropriation
in
of
the
excess
miscellaneous
funds.
provisions.
Mr. Chair, point of order. Point of order.
Yes, Senator Gumatato, you're recognized on your point of order.
Mr. Chair, Section 122 of Mason's Manual, breaches of the order of the House. Number 3, a member who resorts to persistent irrelevance or to persistent repetition after the attention of the House has been called to the matter may be directed to discontinue the speech by the presiding officer. Mr. Chair, we are trying to push through. Thank you again for the work, but again, I would hope that we can continue our deliberations in this chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That is a correct ruling or reading of point of order and of Mason. So we will continue.
Yes, point of order, Mr.
This,
Chair. My point of order, Mr. Chair. On
Here-
this new amendment that we
Yeah.
are considering?
Yes.
Yes. According to the rules of engagement, any appropriation
Senator, you are
can be
continuing
brought up.
argument as per
No,
the
I'm not. I'm
ruling of
bringing
the
it up on
Masons
another
on the
amendment,
floor.
Mr. Chair.
Senator,
It's a brand new amendment.
You are continuing to interrupt
You're
the
in-
business of this legislature.
Are you considering the amendments one by one?
Senator, you are continuing to interrupt.
I am
process
continuing
of this
to raise a
legislation.
point of order that is applicable to
We are in
this amendment
recess.
as well.
Colleagues, I took a recess to confer with the Speaker of the House to confirm that all of my rulings are in order and procedure is in order. And also the Speaker of the House has confirmed that the call of order by Senator Gumatauto is in order and we should proceed without interruption. As I have already made rulings, the only thing that can take place at this point is to motion to overrule the chair, and we will maintain order in this House. Colleagues, at this time, I have ruled SB 266, SFP L8, P54, 3 out of order. It will be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions as it is out of place in this section of the budget.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, and objection,
Note
and
your
I
point
move
of
to
order.
overrule the chair because the ruling that you are making is not based on the rules that you just read to us. They're being
Thank
based
you.
on
There has been a
interpretation
motion.
by
Senator,
different
you have
people
made
in
your
here,
motion
but
to
not by
overrule the chair.
interpretation of our counsel or our
Senator, you have
clerk
made a
who
motion to overrule the
transcribed
chair.
the rules.
Thank you, Senator. There is a motion
And
to
it's just
overrule the chair.
it's
All in favor?
it's an obvious attempt
please
just to
indicate
prevent
by raising
these
your hand.
discussions from happening from the sponsors of the amendments
Yeah.
in the order that they were made, and
Senator,
to reorder
Thank you, Senator.
the
There's been a
amendments of this
motion-
body
There's been a motion to overrule the
and to
chair.
hide
All
the
in
truth,
favor?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. All in favor of overruling the chair, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Senators, we are now on Amendment SFP L8 P54-4. I am ruling this out of order and it will be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions.
Point of order and objection, Mr. Chair, and I move to overrule the chairman on the same basis that ruling this amendment out of order, which is an appropriation
order,
of
Mr. Chair.
excess funds, is the exact same
Point of order, Mr.
methodology
Chair.
that we
I
use
recognize
to
your
appropriate to
point of order,
GMH
Senator Gumatauto.
excess funds.
Yes, I
Exactly the
recognize your
same,
point of order.
which you ruled in order there and out of order now.
I recognize your point of order.
Section
Senator
122, breaches of the House, order of the House. During debate, while the presiding officer is speaking or the House is engaged in voting, no one is to disturb another in a speech by hissing, coughing, spitting, speaking, or whispering to another, nor passing between the presiding officer and the member speaking, not crossing around the floor, not walking up and down, not taking books and papers from the desk, not writing there. There's been continued
I certainly
breaches
hope.
of the order of the House, Mr. Chair. I'm asking that you would continue to uphold it. Thank you.
Mr.
Correct.
Chair, I
Point of
hope you
order.
enforce that rule very
House-
strenuously.
the House
But
is in
I'm
order.
rising to a point of order, Mr. Chair, and the rules require that you recognize any point of order that is raised at the time it
Note
is
your
raised,
point of
and that
order,
it can be
Senator.
raised at any time.
Note your point of order, Senator.
Yes,
Note your point of order. I'm recognizing you.
thank you. My point of order is that this amendment is in compliance with the rules that you laid, which I'm going to read the point of order of the rule that says, any senator who wishes to increase an appropriation to an agency must identify the funding source and explain the impacts on both the receiving agency and the defunded agency. And this is an amendment that you're ruling out of order that funds the Department of Public Health and Social Services, the Homeless Coalition, with excess funds, just as we funded GMH with excess funds in an earlier ruling that you said was okay.
Senator,
And this
if
amendment
noted,
came in
it will be
in
entertained
time
in the
before the
miscellaneous
chapter.
provision. Senator, there is a motion to overrule the chair. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Senators, we are now on SB 266 SFP L18 P57. I'm ruling that this will be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions and ruling it out of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, and
State your point of order.
yes, I rise at point of order that the ruling is out of order because it does not follow any rule of this body. The rules of this body are that any senator who wishes to increase an appropriation to an agency must identify the funding source and the impacts. And that's exactly what this amendment does. It says it's going to take money out of excess funds and give it to behavioral health for detoxification and rehabilitation services. That's exactly where it belongs in the chapter on behavioral health. and the money has no negative impact on anyone to take this money out. What you're doing, though, by your ruling, is rearranging the order of how the amendments came in and making those early amendments be considered later than other amendments, which is very unfair, critically unfair,
The clerk
Mr.
has
Chair.
indicated that I am perfectly in order as the order of the amendments came in. Is there a motion to overrule the chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Motion to overrule the chair. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Colleagues, we are now on Amendment SB 266L8 P54V. I am ruling this out of order and will be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions as it is an outright appropriation and not a raising or lowering funds from either agencies.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes?
Yes, this
Point of
actually is a raising of the funds to the Guam Behavioral Health. It's very clear. It says it's going to give them $500,000 more for suicide prevention programs. It's very clear, in line with your rules, that it's going to increase the agency. We put it into the chapter where the agency is. We put it in before the chapter discussions began. We followed all the rules. And
It will be entertained, Senator, in the
by
miscellaneous
putting the
provisions.
entertainment of this off, you displace the order, and the other rule that you said, that the amendments would be, and I quote, considered, addressed in the order that they are received.
Yes, we
And
are
that
in the chapter.
you will be violating by not considering this right now
We are
in this chapter,
three.
Mr.
We are in
Chair.
Chapter 3, and I have
And
complied
again,
with that completely, and the clerk has affirmed it.
Those senators
These are
who
all in order,
want to
and the
cite
clerk has
rules,
affirmed
yet
it,
allow
confirmed it.
rules to be made up in the middle of the game, I think we really need to consider, that's why we have things like the Simon Sanchez procurement
Is there a motion to overrule the chair?
being considered
Is there a motion to
illegal.
overrule
Mr.
the
Chair,
chair?
Because
point of
people
order.
are willing to do things like that.
Is there a
Change the
motion to
rules in the
overrule the
middle of the
chair?
game, just like they're changing the rules in the middle of the game for Simon Sanchez procurement.
Senator,
They're
is there a
changing the
motion to
rules in the
overrule
middle of the game for our budget here.
You are recognized as a point of order.
Mr. Chair,
Senator
Mason's
Gumatauta.
Manual, Section 122, breaches of the order of the House. And let me just point out, number
Point of order,
two,
Mr. Chair.
no person may
Point of order,
indulge in
Mr. Chair.
personalities, impugn motives of members, use indecent or profane language, or participate
Point
in
of order,
conduct
Mr. Chair.
that disrupts or disturbs the orderly proceedings of the body. Thank
Point
you,
of order, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Point of order.
You are recognized, Senator.
You're very well aware that the rules state that when a point of order is raised, it must be addressed. Yes.
I have addressed your point of order. Is there a motion to overrule the chair?
Yes.
There's a motion to overrule the chair. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Amendment is out of order. Senators, the next amendment is SB 266 SFP L19 P56. I am ruling this that it will be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions, so is out of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, what is your point of order,
Yes.
Senator?
You're ruling that you were going to entertain this amendment to this chapter in another chapter is itself out of order, does not follow any of the rules that you laid out for us, is not allowed by any of our standing rules that you reorder the amendments. In fact, you said very specifically that they will be considered in the order that they are received. And again, the amount of times we're going through this is because these senators have done the hard work to put in these amendments
Mr. Chair,
before
point of
this
order.
chapter. Point
You're
of order.
recognized on your point of order, Senator Gumatauta, and then Senator
Mr. Chair, Mason's
Montanari.
Manual, Section 122, breaches of the order of the House. A member who resorts to persistent irrelevance or to persistent repetition after the attention of the House has been called to the matter may be directed to discontinue the speech by the presiding officer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the point of order. Senator Montanari, you
More of a
recognized?
point of information, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
someone can verify that some of these same amendments that you're ruling out of order were also introduced on the very same day and sometimes even hours before.
Thank you for the point of order, Senator. I appreciate it.
So I'm just saying that it seems like some of these senators that introduced these very same amendments on the very same day knew what the rules were.
Correct.
And so it just appears, while they're trying to paint a picture, that
I don't
we're
understand the
jumping
inquiry, Mr. Chair,
Correct.
that she's been raising, that she is raising.
That is a point of order because
She's
that
in-
is
What I'm
order.
saying,
Yes.
Senator, is that these same amendments
Point of
were
order,
also
Mr. Chair.
introduced
Point of order,
in the
Mr. Chair. If you would
miscellaneous
read the
provision
Mason's
on the same
manual,
day.
they're not allowed to debate. If they want to raise a point of order,
You-
they need to raise a point of order.
information.
information,
Right now,
point of
Senator.
accuracy.
That's correct.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to overrule the chair? You have already made your point of order. Is there a motion
No, I'm
to
making
overrule the
another
chair?
point of order. That was supposedly a point of inquiry, but it was nothing except their own interpretation of what the rules should be, and very contrary to what the rules actually were when they
Understood.
were read.
That's continuous speech as per Masons, and I'm ruling
No,
out
it's
of order.
not.
Are
You are raising,
are you
you are
making
making
a
a ruling on every
Senator,
amendment,
are you
so
making-
I'm going to raise my point of order on every amendment, so
Yes.
the record is very clear
Do you have a
that I
motion?
did not acquiesce to you changing the rules on us.
Do you have a
That I'm
motion
going to
to
call
overrule the
you
chair?
every single amendment here,
And you've done
that you
that.
are ruling out of order that is actually in compliance with your rules.
That you've done that. Do you have a motion to overrule the chair?
Yes, I did already.
There is a motion to overrule the chair. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Senators, we are now on Amendment SB 266 SFP L19 P56-2. I'm ruling this out of order as it is going to be entertained or should be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions. It is not appropriate in this section. The amendment's out of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
What is your point of order, Senator?
Yes, my point of order is that your ruling, again, is contrary to your rules, where you say that these amendments will be discussed in the order that they are received, and that they simply have to state
I rule that it's
the
persistent
increased
debate on the same matter.
appropriation.
Are you ruling to overrule the chair?
yes on your ruling on this amendment.
Yes. Are you making a motion to overrule
I
the
am
chair?
reading the rules, my point of order. You're supposed to read the rules, and so that's what I'm trying to do.
You're making the persistent argument on every...
Because you are
as per
making the
Mason.
persistent
Yes.
ruling on every different amendment, of course I need to raise the same point of order on each of those.
Senator, are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
I am, Mr. Chair.
On the motion to overrule the chair, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails.
Point of
Senators-
personal privilege, Mr. Chair.
You're recognized on a point of personal privilege, Senator Perez.
Yes, so it's clear to me that there's a lack of consistency and a changing of the rules midstream. I did raise in one of the previous chapters, there was an amendment that reappropriated without deappropriating. And this is one of the, I believe one of the rules that you stated in the beginning, that if you're going to take away, if you're going to add funding to one agency, you have to take it away from another agency. And in that recess, you then came back and said, it'll do. And so there in itself is inconsistency and a changing of the rules. And I just want to say that if we're going to move forward, you know, please follow the rules that you set forth and, you know, be consistent with it, with implementing those rules.
Senator,
and if there's
noted.
if there's a need for new
Yes.
rules, then, you know, that has to be brought to the body rather than done capriciously and arbitrarily.
Senator,
And
bring
it-
that concern
the for-
forward, Senator.
No,
Bring
not
that-
yet, not yet.
Yeah.
I'm still stating my personal
Senator,
privilege.
I'm not going to take it on your face value. You're going to have to present that to the body that
I
you're
am
stating.
doing this right now.
However,
It's
then,
a- it's a-
then, then you
it's a
can rise,
personal
then you can rise
point
to
of
that
personal
privilege
privilege.
when you present that fact to the body.
I am
Thank you
doing
for
this.
your
What is
personal privilege.
so? This is an
You-
attempt to really censor us.
No, it's not.
We're
You
trying
need-
to-
you
I'm
need
trying to point out
you
the
need to-
fact.
You need to present that as a fact of evidence,
Mr.
not
Chair,
just to
point of
state
order.
that, yes.
Sorry, I'm not
Mr. Chair, point
done.
of
I'm
order.
not done. I have the
Section
floor.
688,
Excuse me, I have the
limitations of the
floor.
committee of the whole.
She has the floor,
The
Mr.
committee
Chair,
of
and
the
her
whole,
point of
like other
personal
committees,
privilege. Point of
derives its
order.
authority solely from the body.
Point of order, you got-
And is confined strictly to the powers delegated.
This
That's
is an
one.
obvious
But in
attempt to
three,
quiet
a
any
committee
kind
the
of
whole
dialogue
cannot
and
vote-
dissent.
Cannot order a vote by roll call taken by any proposal, cannot entertain any questions of priority, cannot entertain any matter of privilege, cannot lay a proposal on the table. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have entertained your point, And we are now moving on, Senator Perez. On the next amendment, I have ruled out of order P56-3. And the last amendment is
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
SB
Point
266
of order, Mr. Chair.
SFP L19 P56-4. I am also ruling that out of order, and it will be entertained in another section. Out of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, what is your point of order?
My point of order is that you are ruling an amendment, I think you're saying number 4, out of order. This is an amendment to add another $1 million to behavioral wellness, the Detox New Beginnings program for the outsource of detox. And this is being put or proposed to be put into the chapter on behavioral wellness, exactly where it belongs, exactly where we did in fiscal year 2026 with excess appropriations. It has no negative impact on any other agency, and it's perfectly in order according to your own rules, Mr. Chair. So I ask for the body to overrule the chair on these arbitrary and capricious rulings.
There's a motion to overrule the chair. All in favor of the chair's ruling out of order of this amendment, please indicate by raising your hand. Motion fails. Colleagues, we have completed deliberations on Chapter 3. We are now going to Chapter 4, Unified Judiciary.
Isn't there one more amendment, Mr. Chair?
No, there is no more amendments. I have ruled them all out of order, and we are done.
There's a 5 and a page 57.
Clerk, can you confirm that I have exhausted all?
The last one you said was 4. So what about
The clerk has confirmed that I have exhausted all amendments in Chapter 3. We are now on the Judiciary, Unified Judiciary, Chapter 4. I will open the floor. Mr. Speaker, do you have any? Oh, and colleagues, once again, yes, we are on the Judiciary. Mr. Speaker, you're recognized. Senator Gumatauto, do you have any questions on round 1 for Judiciary?
Mr. Chair, I have no questions on the budget from our sister branch of the Judiciary. Their FY 2027 budget was approved by the Judicial Council on April 22nd, 2026, and presented to us just before the State of the Judiciary address on Law Day, May 1st. Chief Justice Catherine Merriman noted then that their FY 2027 budget request reflected modest increases tied to organic growth, routine personnel, step increases, recurring technology maintenance, inflationary adjustments, and the minimal resources necessary to sustain the services at the Guam Judicial Center and the Northern Court Satellite in Dededo, and was encouraged to hear from OFB that they were able to engage them as part of our budgetary process. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Gumatauto. Senator Chalaye, recognized on the Judiciary.
Yes, if OFB would yield, I just want to know, first of all, why the Family Visitation Center appropriation allocation is decreased.
Sure. We'll take a 1-minute recess. The legislature is back in order. Senator Talai, you're recognized.
Yes, my question to OFB was last year's budget, the Family Visitation Center was allocated $29,993. This is for the Erica House, the Family Visitation Center. And now this year, it's only $17,821 being allocated. That's a decrease of $12,000 for this Family Visitation Center. This is a place where people go when they have a domestic situation that is not safe for the kids to visit with the other parent or to have an exchange between the parents and for other reasons that this visitation center exists. And I'm just curious and concerned about the decrease in funding.
Yes, Senator. The program is funded out of the special fund, Safe Street Fund. The fund isn't tracking, so whatever the amount that was reflected in the EBR, we kind of like followed it, but we also made up the shortfall of the $12,000 under the general fund.
But the shortfall goes not to Erica's house. It goes just to their operations, correct? The one you're saying that you gave back?
It's incorporated into their bottom line, Senator, and it's really up to them how they want to allocate it.
All right. And the electronic monitoring program is the same amount as last year? That's a new appropriation from, it doesn't say, it says it is, oh wait, yeah, it's from the general fund.
It's the same amount.
That's in addition.
It's the same amount, Senator.
In addition. And then the Guam Criminal Law and Procedure Review Commission, I was fully in support of this law. They were going to review Titles 8 and 9 and give recommendations to the legislature. I anticipated at that time that that was going to be done within a year. And they came back for an extension for another year. If I'm not mistaken, this is, what, will we be funding the third year of it or the fourth year of it? In 2027.
Let me confirm, Senator. Yes, Senator. I believe the first year we funded the program is in FY24.
So are we on the fifth year? The fourth year?
FY27 would be the fourth year.
Will be the fourth year.
Will be the
All
fourth
right.
year.
All right, thank you. I hope that they can complete their work in this time. And, all right, no other questions.
Senator Perez, you're recognized. Senator. Ranking member, Vice Speaker, Senator Talon. Senator Tadigui, okay. So, folks, that will complete Chapter 5.
No, I raised my hand to say yes.
Yes, Senator
Yeah.
Tadigui, you're recognized.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, of course, I wanted to say a few things as the Oversight Chair of Judiciary and, mentioned the continued steady progress with the judiciary. And I have a couple questions to OFB. There was talk later on in FY25, and they weren't sure, like close to the end of FY25, that there may be some federal cuts to the courts with regards to the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. What is the latest status? Have they reached out to you?
They have not mentioned anything to me or my office regarding the termination of that program, nor have they requested any funding to augment or cover the cost of that program moving forward.
Okay. The other thing was the Safe Street funds in FY26. You awarded 29,993. Now it was 17,821. What do you attribute this decrease?
Like I explained to Senator Senator Tahi,
Yeah.
that the tracking of the Safe Street Fund is not tracking the way it was anticipated to track in FY26. Therefore, there's a $12,000 reduction in the projected fund fund collection for FY27, so we appropriated it accordingly to Judiciary.
So that leads to the next question as to we made them whole by taking money out of the general fund to cover an area in which they get funding from on special funds?
Normally, Senator, what we try to do is that if there's ever a time where a program decreases, we try to see basically what we can do to kind of keep the program at a status quo, normally with the funding that it's supposed to use for its operation. In this case, since it's a $12,000 decrease, that amount represented a huge amount in the fund itself. So what we did is we went ahead and covered it under the general fund, but incorporated into their total appropriation.
So let's go back to how the CRER works and how we look at the CRER. With all the special funds, at the end of the year, well, every month actually, BBMR, what they do is they tell us how the special funds are tracking. And if it's a negative from the estimated projected revenues for that month or throughout the year, they use that as like a liability toward deducting any excess revenue, right? That's how they're doing it, to cover any shortfalls in the special fund.
In anticipation of the shortfall by the end of the fiscal year, yes.
Right, so that's how they do it. So that's why I was wondering, if they are planning, and we have not objected like they did last year and the year before, on using these funds to cover the excess revenue that we fell short on, to cover the special funds using excess revenue, then why aren't we just doing the same and giving the Safe Street funds, maintaining that 29,903, because the excess revenue is going to cover that at the end of the year, instead of using general fund money? It's just like the Healthy Futures Fund, right? The agencies are anticipated to get a certain amount that we project for that year, and if for some reason, if it falls short, they put it as a liability in the CRER and expect any excess revenue to cover that. So why are we taking from the general fund?
We utilize the general fund to cover the shortfall in the special funds at the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
Every month, CER represents what that amount could possibly be by the end of the fiscal year. If you know the CER report, it only tracks basically the 6 major categories. There are other smaller revenue categories within the special fund report that are not tracking. So what we're trying to do is we just kind of go along, and hopefully throughout the year, there's some months that we fall below, there's some months that we collect more. We just hope by the end of the year, there'll be sufficient amount to cover at least the appropriation made against those funds.
Okay. Well, the question with special funds, though, how CRER has been doing this, showing us the liability on falling short, especially in the Healthy Futures Fund. So my question is, doesn't the administration need an authorization from this body to use any excess revenue to pay anything out? And did we give them the authority in FY26 or FY25, the administration, to pay any excess revenue, any shortfalls in the special funds? Because, let me ask you this question to simplify it. Any excess revenue that has not been appropriated, that has been accumulated, is there anything in the budget bill in FY26 that allows the government of Guam, allows DOA or BBMR to use excess revenue to pay down the shortfalls in special funds?
To your question, no, Senator, but there are provisions within the Budget Act that allows the governors to address these shortfalls as they come along.
What section of that is that?
I'm referring to the governor's transfer.
I'm sorry?
I'm referring to the governor's transfer for provision.
But is there anything allowing her to use excess revenue? Because she has to have authority, we have to give her the authority to use that excess unobligated revenue. That's what I'm trying to find. Where is that in the budget bill?
I don't believe there is an authority within the budget bill to give her that authority.
Okay, so we anticipate, unless we do something to allow that to happen, we would not make whole those special funds that we projected that failed to meet that projection, get their money then.
Senator, there is possibilities in situations where departments' appropriation themselves can be available at the end of the fiscal year to be utilized because those are not considered excess funds. They're considered funds appropriated and within the realms of the governor to use to transfer to cover shortfalls.
Oh, use or transfer, right, of the money that's already been appropriated to her, but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about excess revenue, unobligated excess revenue.
I thought you were referring to how she what ability does she have to address the shortfalls?
Yes, her transfer authority, we know that. I'm just talking
Yes.
about excess revenue. So that's something I think we need to have a discussion on that excess revenue that's been unobligated, unappropriated, put it that way. I thought we have to give the authority to use any of that. But anyways, I appreciate the work the judiciary has been doing and addressing their concerns, and most especially the reporting requirements, because, Mr. Chair, it allows us to see what's happening at the judiciary to be able to make them whole in certain circumstances and to be able to monitor their spending as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Once again, within the budget that we pass that is appropriated funds, special funds also are recognized at that level, which means all of the appropriations the governor has within that fiscal year when there's shortfalls in special funds, and this is why we did it in the general fund for judiciary, is to be able to make them whole. They control their own money, and they're able to do that. Senators, we have now exhausted Chapter 4. We are on Chapter 5. Senators, I will remind you once again, in Chapter 5, as I read in our rules, you will be recognized for one round by the raise of a hand on all of the sections within Chapter 5. So I will call it out, each section, and if you wish to speak on it for one round for 5 minutes, you will be recognized by a raise of hand. We're in the executive
I would
branch.
ask for a 5-minute recess, Mr. Chair. This chapter is like 100 pages long. If we could just get 1 minute recess or 5-minute recess to prepare.
Senator, I think everybody's prepared to move forward on this. We've had review of this budget now for 12 days.
No, I mean,
We're on Chapter 5
you're just giving
at
us
this
5
time.
minutes to talk about the entire.
No, I'm not, Senator. I am going section by section,
Okay,
not
all right.
the entire.
Okay, thank
I
you.
will be going page by page, section by section, is what I announced. So, on the office of Imagahagan Guahan, is there anyone that wishes to speak on the appropriation for the office of Imagahagan Guahan? Please indicate by raising your hands. Yes, Senator San Agustin.
I just have one question, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
sir.
And this covers the whole chapter.
Correct.
And maybe but then I'll ask in each section anyway. But
Yes.
maybe Steve can answer it. If he can pretty much tell us across the board for Chapter 5, which sections there, commission, decolonization, and so forth, which one there's got a bunch of laps? Just laps in general. This section's got laps. Or at least when we go to that section, he can announce that first before.
Yeah, we can do that. Why don't we
Okay.
do that every time?
And then
So,
we work
yeah.
it from there.
Sounds
Thank you.
good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So we'll adopt that as a rule. I was actually planning on that and I forgot, so thank you. Sure. So what we'll do is, when we go to each of these, we'll go through their. One minute recess. The committee of the whole is called back to order. Colleagues, in order to be able to see if we can do this before every section organized maybe way, we will discuss the EBR, the substitute bill, the variance. This is the stuff that's all on the spreadsheet that we gave you. And then we will talk about the lapses as well in that particular entity. So, Office of the Governor, OFB, please announce those numbers in sequence.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The amount for the governor's office that's in the EBR is $6,1,445,249. The one in the S bill is exactly the same at $6,145,247 with no variance. So actually, we gave them exactly what they asked for, status quo.
Point of information, could we get also lapses, if there are any lapses?
Yes. Is there any lapses in the governor's office currently?
Currently, they're tracking no lapses at all.
Any questions on the Office of the Governor? Seeing, hearing none, Office of the Governor is closed. Commission on Decolonization. We need the EBR, we need the S bill, we need the variance, and we need the lapses.
The total amount in the EBR is showing $380,870. In the S bill, it's $339,066 for a decrease of $41,804. The lapses total $84,655.
Colleagues, by raise of hand, yes.
Mr. Chair, can you just repeat what he just said earlier? How much was lapsed and how much was reduced? That's all. Then I can comment.
The amount, the variance between the EBR and the S bill is negative $41,804.
And the lapses are?
Their lapses is $84,655.
Senator Snogstein, you're recognized.
No comment. You can't spend it. You don't need more. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you're recognized.
Which one are we on?
We are on page
office?
64, colleagues, page 64, Commission on Decolonization.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
Are there any questions for Commission on Decolonization? Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How much is reserved for the Free Association, Independence, and Statehood task forces?
We set an allocation of $165,000.
We have a total allocation of $165,000, Senator.
That's the total allocation, not for each?
For each, it's 55.
Yeah, Senators, also these information are on page 64. It's in the budget.
I understand, sir. I'm just trying to ask to get these questions on the record for the public.
Okay, thank you. I just was wondering if you were following the pages. Thank you.
No, I am, sir. Thank you.
For each task force, Senator, it's $55,000.
And are these task force funds restricted from personnel and travel?
I do not believe, Senator, there's no restriction, the use of it.
Okay. And I guess with those funds, what kind of deliverables does OFB expect from the COD in FY 2027? Are you thinking of this money in terms of village meetings, mailers, polling, voter education? I'm just trying to figure out what are the expectations for the Commission on Decolonization with these task force funds?
If you're asking what is OFV's position on it, the only thing I can say, sir, is that I hope they're able to spend up to the level of the appropriation to accomplish the goals and objectives of the program.
The Statehood Task Force has not met in many years. What happens to appropriations meant for the Statehood Task Force if it is not used?
I would assume, Senator, either the program, the funds for the particular program is used elsewhere, or it will eventually lapse by the end of the year.
Excuse me. And the Davis ruling ruled our decolonization law unconstitutional. What are the current functions of the Commission on Decolonization given that ruling, and how has that affected their operations? Can they continue to expend their funds when the court ruled the decolonization law unconstitutional?
Senator, I'm not purviewed, or do I know it at this moment what the functions of the program, but I would assume that whatever the requirements are, whatever they're supposed to do within the program, they will fulfill those.
And I guess my other question is, not a question, but I guess more of a point, I suppose, is previous governors have not sat at the Commission on Decolonization, and we are funding it here. Do we know that the future governor will even convene the Commission on Decolonization?
That, Senator, I have no clue what the future administration would do, whether or not, if it wasn't held in the past, it is being requested in the next budget, and that I would hope that they will fulfill that goal and objective.
All right, that's all my questions. Thank you, Steve.
Mr. Chair, point of request, I guess, if there is such a thing. But
state your point of request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I heard earlier that we, even Senator Shinagi and I were talking, and thank you for the information on giving us EBR versus the substitute budget, variances, because it is very difficult to read the sheet you gave us. It's so tiny unless you have a magnifying glass. But could we, when you do go through these areas, that you can give us first EBR's request amount, then then the substitute budget, and then the FY26, what was appropriated to them in FY26, then the lapses. So 4 different informations, because we can assess what the executive branch wanted. We can assess what FY26 we gave them last year, and that tells us about the lapses. Because, Mr. Chair, if we gave them $200,000 in their committee, in their agency last year, and they have lapses, those lapses doesn't necessarily reflect that they didn't use it, they spent it, because we're in July. We have still August, September, 2.5 more months for these agencies to utilize their lapses. So if we can just get those 4 things, we can make an assessment upon ourselves on the probability of them utilizing their lapses by the end of the fiscal year. So that's all I'm requesting for those 4 numbers. Okay, EBR, the substituted bill that we have in front of us, and then what was given in FY26, this year's appropriation, then lastly, the lapses. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Noted. Any other individuals wish to speak on Commission on Decolonization? Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
To the people of Guam, thank you for joining us on this Monday. If you didn't know, we were in all weekend, so go back and watch the episodes from yesterday and Saturday. I don't have questions, sir, specifically on Commission on Decolonization, but I just kind of wanted to ask Mr. Guerrero a little bit more about the lapses. So I know lapses are funds that are left over that haven't been spent, but when you look into your computer, Are you able to tell with these agencies, for example, Commission on Decolonization, you said they were lapsing how much?
Right now, based on the May CRE report and the lapses that have been generated, what we anticipate is about $84,000 to the end of the year. I also want to make note that when we talk about lapses, these lapses basically are lapses we anticipate at the end of the year, not as of May. So it's kind of like annualized, taking their current expenditures as of May, calculating what their monthly expenditures, prorating it out for the next 4 months, and then estimate at the end of the 12-month period what that balance would be. So the lapses that I'm noting here are annualized all the way out until the end of September.
Okay. So are you able to tell when you look into your computer of the, for example, the $84,000 that's lapsing, if that was intended to be used for anything with the agency's needs?
Senator, it would be difficult to do that simply because their budget is lump sum. So they get to use this money anywhere they feel appropriate to spend it.
So not specifically with the Commission on Decolonization, but it's possible that agencies could have lapsed, or you could see lapsed funds from different agencies, but they fully intend to use that money for, different things in the budget or programs, but maybe because of delays in procurement or staffing shortages that they haven't been able to. So you're not able to tell when you look in your crystal ball computer if these are lapses, like they just didn't spend the money and they've got a stack of 50 grand or whatever, or if it's just money that is earmarked, obligated, or intended for some other type of use?
Lapses, Senator, basically is just a method to determine at any point in time how the departments are utilizing their funds. Yeah. And it's just a snapshot in time to say, after 6 months of the fiscal year, we look at what their expenditure trend, and if they're spending 50% of their appropriation, we can assume they're spending on time, in a timely manner. If they're only spending 40% or 30%, it's an indication that they're not spending up to the limit that they're supposed to at the time. But again, it's just an indication of how they're doing, of how they're spending.
I only ask because I think that this narrative that, and I'm not saying it's a narrative, it's factual. A lot of agencies do have lapses, but we're trying to say that because these agencies have lapses, somehow we're justified in continuing with the 0.5% BPT reduction because government agencies aren't spending the money that we're giving them. When I think a lot of us in here know full well that when these agencies come in, they'll talk about procurement delays and other types of delays that prevent them from spending these funds. So I just kind of wanted to find a little more information about lapses. So just for the record, when you look into the agency accounts, you will see lapsed funds, but there's no way for you to tell if those funds are intended for, programs or expenditures that benefit the people of Guam. You just see a number.
Yes, it's just a summary number, Senator, of their appropriation, not specifically by program.
And so this substitute bill, what will happen if this substitute bill passes to all of these lapses outside of the ones that, for example, Guam Department of Education, I think they get that continuing appropriation. So what's going to happen to the $84,000 or the, whatever amount of funds that agencies have that are lapsing if this bill passes?
Well, any lapses, Senator, at the end of the fiscal year reverts back to the general fund.
Right, yeah. So it's been standard practice, at least in the last 3 budget cycles. I'm a little foggy on the last one, but we've all tried to, at least when I was chair, protect the lapses of our different oversights, and that's a practice that the committee is not allowing. Is that the rule, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, thank you for addressing me on that. So if you remember several months back, the executive branch had sent out a memo stating that the reason for a $14.6 million deficit tracking, which was later on corrected with a new CRER, is because the legislature has been appropriating carryover provisions, and that they were, I guess, awarding from time to time those carryover provisions which they say, the Department of Administration says, the Office of the Public Accountability says, is a terrible practice. You should not appropriate excess or lapsed revenue without an audit. Lapsed revenue results in our fund balances that we accumulate, that we later appropriate, meaning the money's really there. So I take don't take a lot of advice from the front office, but in this one, I do. Because that practice, they are correct, has caused this government to go into deficit. We do not want to do that. We want to have a balanced budget and spend appropriately. So yes, I have made a decision as the chair to disallow lapse funding carryover in order to preserve the integrity of our fiscal situation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that. But also what could happen by these lapses being reverted to the general fund is programs or expenditures that these agencies have already made. Basically, we're going to be pulling the plug on that blindly, you know. Last fiscal year is the rifle. This fiscal year, it's like the machete slashing. All right. So thank you, and thank you, Mr. Guerrero, for kind of clarifying that when you look into your computer and you see these lapse funds, you see the dollar amount, you don't see whether or not these funds are going towards, child care programs or services for individuals with disabilities, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, and one clarification, and I'm sure OFB will back me up on this. If you request the agency's detailed budget and they're tracking, you can see their budgeted vacancies and their contractual. So it is visible. It's just not visible in this table that you've asked for this.
Let me one-up you on that.
That would be extraneous.
Mr. Chair, respectfully, if we had the agencies in here, we could easily ask them, but for whatever reason, you seem hell-bent on rushing this reckless budget through, and you're not even allowing the members the opportunity to ask representatives from the different agencies if they intend to use those lapse funds, or if those lapse funds are tied to anything that benefits our people or our island. So,
Senator,
again,
thank you for the comment.
Yeah.
Your time is up.
I still had time.
Yes,
your time. Mr. Chair.
Senator, I will tell you, this is a budget hearing. This is not an oversight hearing.
Yeah.
And the former budget chair that is sitting in the back there has clarified that during his 6 years as the OFB chair, and you've been sitting here for a few of those years, they have not brought the agencies in. There was 1 year when there was an overrule of the chair. There was
Watch
1
the
year
budget session
when there
from
was an
last year,
overrule
respectfully.
we brought in two. We brought in the hospital,
That's
and
two
we
more than
brought
we're
in
bringing in now.
education. Yes, but for your continued stating that that is something that is a standard practice is not correct.
But Mr. Chair, just with all due respect, and thank you for indulging me and allowing me to speak, because I don't know what the situation with the remaining time is. But it just seems prudent, and I think our people would definitely agree that if we're crafting a budget for the entire government of Guam, that we should at least have the agencies in here to be able to ask them information about their lapses, or their any budgetary needs that have arisen since their budget hearing, which a lot has transpired since these budget hearings. So I just think it's absolutely reasonable to bring the agencies in and let us work diligently, but I can understand why you don't want to do that, because you've already told everyone that we're going to pass this budget by July 17th.
Senator, thank you for your comments. I will respond, and then we'll move on. This is not a debate. I have said that because that's standard. We normally pass a budget after 2 weeks. We're going to be just about there on the 17th with a few delays, but we worked over the weekend. Thank you, Senator. Senator Paris, you're recognized.
Yeah, just point of information. So we're in the last quarter of the budget, the 2026 cycle budget. So keep in mind that that 84,000 is actually almost a quarter if they just received that funding. My understanding is that DOA does hold on to some funding towards the end, before the end of the fiscal year. And so just because there's lapse right now, there's still that quarter that's left for them to expend that. So even though there's the amount is given, there's still a quarter left to go. And DOA has these fiscal controls in place. And so what we see today is not an indication of what's going to happen at the end of the fiscal year. And so it's kind of giving a tainted view of what's not being used. And so that's my concern about this, just throwing out the numbers when we're not taking into consideration the budget amount, DOA's fiscal controls, and we have a quarter left. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That's always been an executive function, and so the legislature does not tell the executive what to do. Senator Gumatauta, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do appreciate the ofbguam.org website /FY-2027-budget-request and a lot of information to include the Commission on Decolonization, which is where my next question is going to go, Mr. Chair, and I think the information is pretty invaluable. In their budget, OFB, it shows contractual across the board for each of the status options. Can you have any idea what that contractual or what those contracts would be for? I think it's listing $32,000 a piece in their request from each of the respective status options. Actually, excuse me, I stand corrected. It's, yeah, $32,000 each.
Give me a moment to pull up their budget. We have a total breakdown of about $35,750 for contractual. Of a website management, outreach, event coordination, marketing, media services, printing services, educational content production.
Yeah, and in FY26, they were only authorized for public meeting notices for contractual, but it shows in this current fiscal year all those things you mentioned. I just wanted to understand, so that's spread across the three status options, it sounds like, right? Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, it's really up to them to figure out which contractual obligations, Senator, do you want to get into. But I think they have the funding, but it's, again, we don't tell them what each dollar is for. It's really up to them to obligate those funds accordingly.
All right, thank you. And again, I appreciate the website and the information that it brings to us as we're preparing the budget. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
On Commission on Decolonization, any other questions by senators? Seeing and hearing none, decolonization is complete. So, senators, as requested, the current budget of the agency will be the first that's listed. So it will be their current budget, the EBR, the S-bill, the variance, and the lapses. Senators, we are now on page 66, and once again, for your information, somewhat details are in the budget if you go page by page with us as we're going along. Page 66, Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. OFB, please read out the 5 categories.
Yes, Senator. The total FY26 appropriation for ancestral lands is $444,396. The EBR has them at $444,396. The S-bill is at $648,396. For the variance between the OFB and the EBR is $204,000, and they do not anticipate any lapses.
That's 247 in the positive, correct?
That's correct.
So that's special funds. That's the request, and so their special funds are tracking, and that's how they've been able to get that increase based on what they asked for the appropriation, because they are operating under a special fund. Senator Taitigui, you're recognized under Guam Ancestral Lands Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, did they mention at all what they're going to be doing with that $204,000 additional funding that's been given to them?
No, they did not provide a breakdown for that.
Okay. And Steve, the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission.
Senator, if I just let me go back here just for a second. They provided information because when they asked to increase their special fund by that same amount, they wanted to do a couple of things. One was the salary and benefits transition of administrative aide to administrative service officer, plus increase in plus increments. Then they wanted to do a couple of audits regarding their audit, websites, copy, and advertisement. They wanted to cover the cost of the rent, increase in rent, supplies, and miscellaneous.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
A point of information on that question, if I can provide some information.
Yeah, we'll just take this as your time to
actually,
speak.
then I pass on that.
You pass on that,
But I
okay.
just thought I could add information to what she...
Well, we'll just use your time for that. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so if you look in the budget bill on page 165, it does state that this special fund has restrictions, and it's pursuant to Title 21 GCA, Chapter 80, Section 80104H3. So it goes towards some administration functions as well as their surveying requirements.
Thank you, Senator Perez. On Guam Ancestral Lands Commission, anyone else wish to speak? Yes, Senator Sanagstein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure it's clearly understood. Their increase is based on their special funds, basically their own money, just asking to use their own money to do what they need to do to upgrade whatever they need to upgrade, correct? And if that's so, then thank you.
Yes, Senator, that fund is exclusively for the use of the Ancestral Lands Commission.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions or comments on GALC? Seeing and hearing none, GALC has been heard. Colleagues, we are now page 67. D, Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, GOVA. Any questions on GOVA? Senator Taitigui, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we all know that...
Stand by.
Okay.
Yeah. OFB, you're on.
Okay. The current appropriation level for the Office of Veterans Affairs is $1,246,443. The EBR request is $1,246,443. The OFB S bill is $1,246,443. There is zero variance between the S bill and the EBR. Their current lapses is at $639,213. $639,212.
Okay, yes, they're lapsing basically half of their budget. On GOVA, Senator Sabrina Salas-Mantanani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the Oversight Chair over Guam Office of Veterans Affairs, I have been in communication with the Director as well as Mr. Joseph Meno. They are aware of the appropriation. They are aware that it is the same that they received in the EBR, and they are okay with the appropriation.
Thank you, Senator Mantanani. On Veterans Affairs. Anybody else wish to speak on Veterans Affairs? Senator Talai, you recognize.
Yes, so last year they were given the authority in the budget to use the unexpended balance of appropriations from the general fund in the preceding fiscal year. And I know that's not in this section, but were they able to use those? They were denied, right?
I can answer that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please provide information, Senator Matanani.
Sorry, Mr. Chair,
early
are we
on.
going to take time away from that because you took time away for me to provide information?
I think it's different than the clock. I will give everybody the same courtesy if they have information.
So again, you're
for
changing the
body.
rules. You're changing the rules in the middle of the game.
Okay,
point-
so
I can wait till
Senator
privileged.
Matanani, you
I'm
will
not,
not be able,
I'm not
you will
objecting
not be
to
able
providing
provide
information, but I just want to be
yes.
treated fairly in this body.
Senator Matanani, that's okay. Well, you can text it to me.
I'm asking OFB.
Yeah?
I'm not sure, Senator, whether or not they're utilizing lapses from prior years to cover current year operation. But I
I'm
can,
asking if they were able to use the lapses that we authorized them to use last year. So in the 2026 budget, we authorized them to use the 2025 lapses, and I'm asking, did they? Or were they forbidden from doing so?
that, Senator, I cannot answer whether or not they were actually authorized or have access to utilize those lapses.
The FMIS system that you have access to cannot tell you whether they're using that or not? It doesn't show where the payments are authorized?
We didn't look to see whether or not prior year lapses are being utilized. What we're looking at is current expenditures hopefully paid against current appropriation. Let me explain something right now, and this probably I think is the best time for me to explain this.
Is this relevant to my question?
And yes, it is very much relevant. When we authorize departments to utilize carryover balance from a previous year, it's telling us one thing, you're telling me one thing, is that the amount of appropriation that we're appropriating for that year is more than sufficient to cover their costs, thus them resulting in lapses. When we take those lapses and move it forward into the next fiscal year, giving them the same appropriation level that they drew and accumulated those lapses, what it does is it compounds basically the problem on the appropriation side, because now, in the case of Veterans Affairs, they have $638,000 to spend this year, which is from last year's appropriation. We are appropriating the same level again, which tells me they're going to lapse $638,000. Now, unless they're obligating more expenses or they plan to pay more contracts out and stuff like that to utilize both the $638,000 that we're carrying over plus the current year appropriation, that's great. That's what I want. That's
I
why
appreciate what you want and what your opinion
I mean,
might
that's what
be,
I'm
but the
presenting.
question is actually just for facts, because you're our OFB, the Office of Finance Budget for the Guam Legislature, all of us, and the only way that we can get access to the FMIS system is through you. And so I'm only asking if you could see any evidence that they were able to utilize their FY25 lapses that were authorized in the FY26 budget bill. Because we went through an oversight hearing with the Office of Veterans Affairs, and I think GPD, and if I'm not mistaken, Customs, where they said they were absolutely denied use of those funds. And I want to confirm that with you through your look through the FMIS, if they were truly denied, or were they able, did you see any evidence that they were able to use those lapses?
I have not seen anything, whether or not my staff has done it, no, but we just got information from them that they were told that they could not use those lapses.
That's what they said in the oversight, but that's
Yes.
why I'm asking for OFB, the Office of Finance Budget, who's funded independently of the Guam Legislature, to confirm these information for us. All right, and why it's relevant for me, despite everybody's other opinion, is because you have an opinion, you don't like lapses going forward. DOA seems to have banned these agencies from using their lapses to their detriment, they said at the oversight hearings. Yet there are appropriations pending while we discuss this matter for lapses. And so I just find that very inconsistent, and I just want to know if we consider appropriations or authority for lapses that some other senators are making in this budget bill, if you're going to be able to track that, if you're going to be able to confirm for us that they can be used. That's really all I wanted to confirm. And so obviously it sounds like you don't look at when they're spending, what is the source of that, or it's, all right. Well, I would ask that if we're going to have any appropriations to carry forward lapses, that you do look at that so that we can confirm that when they come in for their budget hearings, or their oversight hearings as we go forward. Just Masi.
Before we go to Senator Taitigui, I will reference, which everybody should know, we can put it on the drive once again, the February 10, 2026 letter from BBMR denying GOVA the use of those lapses.
Yes, I'm aware
Senator
of that letter,
Taitigui,
Mr. Chair.
you're
That's why I
recognized.
asked OFB to confirm if that letter is confirmed in what they see in the FMIS.
It's confirmed based on the executive branch. Senator Taitigui, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, now that the Veterans Affairs is in a different location, one that they desperately need, a larger location, and it is larger. So when you have a square footage that's larger, you also have a lot more maintenance, you have power that's needed a lot more. So did they come to you at all with regards to that additional expense that they're going to be
No.
taking on?
Status quo.
They didn't. I guess you knew that, Mr. Chair. So, Steve, that you concur, right? They didn't come to you for that, right?
No, they did not, Senator.
So we can just anticipate, though, that that may happen, and whatever lapses they have right now, hopefully will cover that additional expenses that they are now incurring being at a new location that's much larger than what they've been using at before. So other than that, there is also no rental, right? Costs that the government is charging for them. They're rent free. Is that true?
Yeah, the appropriation level that's in the S bill does include costs for rent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Taitigui. On Veterans Affairs, Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if the OB can answer this. In the previous years, we appropriated funds for them to use and to exhaust it. And I'm just wondering if there's maybe a conflict as why probably DOA is saying you can't use these labs because why? You need to exhaust the other funds you need to exhaust. Like hire the cemetery workers, get the bus, hire the service officers. And they haven't completed, and that was quite a few funds that Senator Taitigui and I pushed for them to spend. And if they haven't exhausted that, I'd be in line with the administration that no, you're not going to spend any of this current money because why? You need to exhaust this. And I need to make sure that we all understand when you mention how labs are driven, you take the whole year, and each agencies are required to submit a schedule of how they get distributed money. And if they're not spending what they're getting monthly or quarterly, of course it's going to recognize that it's identified as a lapse. And it's under a safe assumption that when you look at it, Steve, if you're not spending, like you said, if you're spending 50%, then you're good. If you're spending 40 or 30, then that means you ran out of reasons to spend. And if you haven't yet justified it, then that's where BBMR will come and says, you need to clarify what's the intent or what you're going to spend it for. And unfortunately, I know they moved into a new compound, and they still got, like all the colleges said, they got 3 more months. Well, they better put a quick plan together and identify where they're going to spend as much as they can. Because, not carrying over labs, I don't see a reason to carry over labs. You're getting what you asked for. You don't need to keep repeating the same mistake every year and not spending it all. So I just wanted to make sure that, Steve, we're in agreement on how labs are determined based on what I said. I'm assuming that's correct, Steve? Pretty much?
Yeah, your assumption is correct, Senator. And that's basically what happens in the departments when, for whatever reason, they don't have the ability or the restrictions or the moguls and mountains that you need to climb to spend their funds. What counts is at the end of the fiscal year, when we see these funds, what do we do with them? I mean, do I make them avail back to the agency the following year? Because the next budget is supposed to cover the costs of the next 12 months. But if we are going to allow them to use it, then so be it. Why they're not allowed to use it, I don't know. That's beyond me.
Did you notice, Steve, at all during the budget of the Veteran Affairs, did any of the manpower increase? Like, what they had last year, did it double the number of cemetery workers or whatever? Did anything increase? And if it didn't increase, then it's status quo? And then it would probably change when they use the money that is available until exhausted?
I believe, Senator, their budget for FY26 is the same budget they're asking for to carry over in FY27 with no additional FTEs included.
So it's safe to assume then that when we introduced and sent Title Grant, I introduced the bill to cover the cemetery workers, get the van, which includes the driver and the veterans officers. That number hasn't changed, is what you're saying? Or it was vacant then, now it's filled?
That's basically the scenario what's happening within the department, sir. As they recruit, they also lose. So if you look at the net number, some of them actually are worse off. Some they gain 1, 2, 3 people throughout the year, but it fluctuates and it varies throughout the year.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a veteran, I fully support the Veterans Office, but we'd have to question now, why aren't they spending? That's the biggest thing that bothers me. You got the money, the veterans need help, spend the money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator San Agustin. Senator Burnett, you're recognized.
So just want to see, Mr. Chair. Mr. Guerrero, are you able to tell us how much is the rent? And is this for the new property that was purchased from the Archdiocese?
Give me a moment to pull that out.
Thank you, sir.
They got the building and they put GOBA in there.
Senator, that location that you're referring to is not part of their budget request for 27.
So that rent is just for the, where they're at currently?
The current rent that's in their budget, yes.
What is the amount?
Hold on.
While they're looking that up, Senators, this is widely reported when they moved there. The governor's office with ARP money purchased that building. GOVA is under the governor's office, so perhaps there's no request at this point in time because the governor's office is covering those expenditures for them as that office is free and clear. So, but we will give you their rent amount that is in their budget.
So just want to see, I mean, it's always been interesting to me that, for example, we have agencies out at Hessler, which is owned by the government of Guam, but they're getting charged rent by the Department of Administration. So that's why I was asking. I mean, even if we have the lieutenant governor out here buying up properties from the archdiocese, it just wouldn't even surprise me if these agencies would still be charged rent because the precedent is there.
Senator, for clarification, according to what we have here, there's no cost for rent. There's no appropriation for rent on their budget.
Okay, thank you. You know, it's interesting that we're given the Office of Veterans Affairs a status quo budget because when you go out and you talk to the veterans, I'm very, very sure that not a lot of them are happy with the status quo. Nat Day, Director Joseph Augustine of the Veterans Affairs, they obviously need help spending their budget. It's pretty much him and Joe Meno. And they rely on GSA to procure things like everybody does, and that's where there's a lot of delays. And so just speaking to the lapses, it's almost like, you know, us back of the check signers. It's like you get paid, next payday rolls around, you still got $100 in your pocket, but that's to pay back your pari who's going to ask for that next week. But the way we're running this budget, it's like they're going to take that $100. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And so I think the Office of Veterans Affairs needs our support. And I don't understand why these critical agencies, I mean, we talk all day about Biba the veterans. But agencies like the Veterans Affairs are getting a status quo, but we couldn't even status quo the business privilege tax rollback that's included in this. So that's very, very good, my dear people of Guam. Your status quo, people with disabilities, we have to right-size services for our individuals with disabilities. We have to right-size services for the kids with autism. We have to right-size services for those struggling with substance abuse addiction. Low, we're plus-sizing the benefit to the big businesses. And we have to sit here and listen to why it's so important that we suck up these monies that some of these agencies didn't get to spend in time, so that we can justify, again, the $40 million business privilege tax reduction, another $40 million. When it would be absolutely prudent, I think you guys might even get votes from it, to come in here and say, you know, we lowered the BPT by 0.5%, and the businesses benefited from that. But we kind of need to see where we are with these agencies, because I don't think the people of Guam are voting for status quo. So you guys would have looked great to say it would be prudent to hold off on that other 0.5%, $40 million reduction, so that we can give a meaningful support to our veterans, give a meaningful support to our people. But it seems like the only people benefiting from this budget are the people who sign the front of the check. Newsflash, my dear colleagues, there are far more people on our island who sign the back of the check. And this budget does nothing for our people but keep them where they're at in the status quo.
On Veterans Affairs. Seeing and hearing none. Oh, Senator Perez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, yes, it's important to realize when we're slashing budgets that there are people behind that, people that rely on those services. And we've had many hearings with the Veterans Affairs, and they need help. I mean, they roughly make about 20,000 plus people in our community. And so it's really, disingenuous to say, oh, they didn't use their money, take it away from them, when they actually need that service. I've been told that some of the bottlenecks are happening with the hiring. They need the veterans service representatives that are critical to handling. These are certified employees that are certified to handle claims. We just opened up a local veterans clinic here, which is very helpful, but if we're going to take away the services that veterans need by taking away some of their funding, you're really just undermining the advances and the benefit and the advantages that have been made thus far. So I think it's really easy to say, yes, we're saving money, but you have to think about the faces behind that. Even from members here have stated they support veterans, but then they're so easy to say, yeah, just cut, take it away from them. I just want to remind the body that, just because you're cutting money doesn't mean it's going to help our community. In fact, it will make you do the opposite. Steve, when did the budget hearing occur for the Veterans Affairs?
They didn't have a budget hearing.
They didn't have a budget hearing. Why
No.
not? Why not?
They weren't scheduled for one.
And whose responsibility is that?
To schedule a budget hearing?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, my recollection is that we had budget hearings for the Veterans Affairs.
Senator, when we schedule these budget hearings, we contact the agencies, and in a lot of cases when we're agreeing with the EBR, we tell them that, we're in agreement with the EBR, and they're like, not that they're okay with it, they'll just say, okay, we'll move on. But we do allow them to come in every once in a while to, sit down and talk to us and share some of their challenges and experiences and their difficulties, and we take that into consideration, and we says, okay, through that communication, we'll come out and figure out what the best level we can come up with them, for them. Utilizing all this information, and at the end of the day, in the case of Veterans Affairs, we just gave the status quo in the EBR. That's what we questioned. I mean, that's what we gave the level that's reflected in the EBR.
So this is a new practice. I mean, that reduces the amount of transparency in this whole budget process. I mean, it's pretty clear that we're getting different messages from the agencies themselves than what we're hearing here in this committee of the whole. And so I don't know if that could be confirmed. What you're telling me is coming from one side, but not the other. And that's the problem when we don't have budget hearings. We're not hearing from the agencies, from the needs of our community members. And in some ways that really, it blocks out any really true dialogue. And that can come back to hurt us. So I think it's really short-sighted to not have these budget hearings with the agencies. You know, there have been changes. Just because that discussion happened on one day, there are many changes that may have transpired. For instance, the building at the Archdiocese, that's new. And you know, what about utility costs? Is that covered in their operational budget, being that, is that going to affect them hiring a VSR? I mean, these are rhetorical questions, right? So, I mean, I'm just saying that not doing the due diligence of having meetings with the agencies for the public to see is really short-sighted. And I feel there's an agenda behind it. It's like putting your head in the sand because you don't want to hear anything else. And who's to say that, you know, we can't confirm what you're saying is actually accurate? So that's why these hearings are necessary. That's the purpose of this body. One of the main purposes of this body is to invite public voices and not make executive decisions. It's Masi.
On Veterans Affairs.
Point
Senator
of inquiry.
Yes.
Mr. Chair or OFB, do you recall an oversight hearing, maybe not necessarily a budget oversight hearing, but an oversight hearing that was held over GOVA?
Yes, I do, Senator.
Right. Do you recall when that was held?
I can get that for you, but I can at least share some of the contents of that oversight hearing. It was done, I believe, last year in December and one in March of this year. And
I believe there was also one in May, I think.
And there may have been one in May.
Right.
But part of the discussion, at least in those oversight hearings, including the difficulty of the agency spending their funds, the returning of money to the federal government.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, is this being timed? I don't see
This is
any.
a point of inquiry, and it's
Okay,
allowed. Yes.
again, you know, you timed me when I was providing information.
Senator, you were providing information. I
Okay,
give
now
that
what rule
courtesy.
is this?
There
I
is a
feel like
point-
there's a.
You can rise to
the
a point
rules
of
are
inquiry, just
arbitrary
like
and
everybody.
capricious again.
Senator, I have always entertained points of information, points of inquiries.
But you were
This
timing
is a
me when I
point
gave a
of-
point of information.
That's right, but I'm saying that if you have another request for a point of inquiry, you can do that as well. I was giving you a
But
courtesy
why was I
because-
timed and this is not being timed? I'm just
Senator-
Please,
asking
you can
for
time me, that's
fair-
fine.
Senator, you did
I'm asking
not-
for fairness,
Senator, you
Mr.
did
Chair.
not ask-
Please
Not
time me. You can run the
arbitrariness.
clock,
Okay,
please.
thank you.
Yeah, you did not ask for time. Senator,
No,
please
you can run the
continue.
clock. That's fine. That's,
Point of inquiry is fine. Please continue with
you.
your point of inquiry.
Steve, you were answering a question.
These are just some of the topics that were discussed, and the recent one was in May. The return of federal monies to the feds, utility costs being the same. The building is solar powered, and they're still trying to determine their billing, so there's no way they can determine whether or not the billing cost, utility cost is going to rise. And basically just the difficulty in recruiting individuals. And these were some of the issues that the department shared with us, at least at the oversight hearing. We take those oversight hearing information and use that as part of our determination in how we move forward.
Thank you. Again, that was in May, right? Just about a little over a month ago.
The last one was in
right?
May, yes.
Right, okay. Right, and just to reiterate that I have had discussions with GOVA, not just during that oversight hearing, which they came, some senators attended, some did not. So we were able to
Is this still an
get
inquiry,
information
Mr.
from
Chair?
them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, follow up on the
I'm done.
inquiry.
Thank you.
Thank you. On Veterans Affairs,
I have
anyone
a
who
point
has
of
not
inquiry,
spoken?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, what is your point of
Yes, can OFB tell us at the oversight hearing that they're quoting things out of, were they in attendance?
Were you in attendance?
We
Oh,
weren't there physically, but we are listening to
monitoring,
them.
yes.
All right, that's probably what happened with many senators, but I was there. Did they talk about the archdiocese building costs?
In reference to them or
Of
to
course. They're the only ones that's planning to move in there.
the only thing I can recall regarding that is, and yes, they did. The only thing I think I recall remembering from that was whether or not they would be able to utilize portion of that facility as their future housing.
All right. Yes, and we even went there for the grand opening, and it's much larger than their current facility. I think the question about utilities, you're saying there's not, is there an increase in utilities plan? You're saying no, right? Because we didn't ask them anything since January regarding their budget submission, right?
If you're talking about them moving at that location, yeah.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
On Veterans Affairs, seeing and hearing none, Veterans Affairs is done. We are now on page 69, Senators, Civil Service Commission.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I think
Yes.
it was 68, please. Bureau of Budget Management.
Oh, excuse me. My pages were stuck together. Page 68, BBMR. Is there any questions on Bureau of Budget Management Research? But before that, we will get the presentation from Office of Finance and Budget.
The total appropriation for the Bureau of Budget Management for FY26 is $1,716,150. The ABR is $1,716,150. The SBO is at $1,116,150. There is no variance in the two. The total projected lapses for BBMR at the end of the fiscal year is $166,242.
Thank you, Office of Finance and Budget. On BBMR, is there any questions or inquiries on BBMR? Seeing, hearing none, BBMR is closed. Now, Civil Service Commission. OFB, please make your presentation.
For FY26 appropriation for Civil Service Commission, the total appropriation is $1,449,798. The EBR is $1,710,590. The EBR, the SBO is $1,543,879. The variance between the SBO and the EBR is a negative $166,711, and they project no lapses to the end of the year.
On Civil Service Commission, anyone wish to speak on Civil Service Commission? Seeing and hearing none, CSC is closed. On the Department of Administration, OFB, please make your presentation.
Yes, for the operations side of DOA, total appropriation for 26 is $12,038,609. The EBR has it at $13,392,760. The SBO is $12,038,609. The variance between the OFB and the EBR is $1,354,151, and the total lapses is $549,921.
On Department Administration, is there anyone wish to speak on Department Administration? Seeing and hearing none, Senator Talaya, you're recognized.
Yes, this is the residential, on page 71, part 4. This is the residential treatment fund that BBMR was referring to when they sent their letter around that says reduced funding for residential treatment fund, $700,000 reduction versus EBR, the executive budget request, underfunds the program requirement based on actual expenditures rate for the past years. And they had talked about, they requested 1 million and OFB gave 300,000 for off-island treatment because the local beds are full for these, I think this is children in need of residential treatment. Is this the same provision that they're referring to here?
You're correct, Senator.
All right, so you don't believe that their request is justified to increase the beds for the off-island treatment, or for the, residential treatment?
Senator, we did give the department 300,000 more for the residential treatment fund.
All right, I guess what they were saying is that they had requested 1 million more because, is that correct? Because for residential treatment alone, because of the need that they are having and that the beds are full. Is that right?
They did request for it, Senator.
Okay. So was there a budget hearing for this provision?
For Department Administration, yes, Senator.
All right. And let me just check the other sections. All right. This continues to have an appropriation for in this section, the Academy Charter Schools Council administrative support for a basketball federation, $200,000, for all the T's and leases for DOE are all in this section. And then there's a new section in section 14, page 75, regarding the FMIS. So it looks like the regular appropriation for the FMIS, which looks 3.5 million a year. Last year was 3.8 million. But there's a new subsection B that says the sum of $560,000 is appropriated from the general fund to the Department of Administration for the FMIS software licensing requirements. Could you please explain that, why this cost is coming up now? And is this a new software licensing that they didn't need when they started the FMIS? And how much more cost are we going to incur for this FMIS?
Senator, the 3.5 million, my understanding, is for the maintenance cost of the system. The 560,000, as per DOA, is for the software licensing requirement to run the system. Why it's being requested now and not the first year, I don't know why, but it is a request, and they said without it, it would be difficult to run the system with the software they have.
But aren't they running the system?
They are, yes.
Hasn't it been at least 2 years?
I assume, yes.
So you didn't independently, we don't know anything about this cost. Is this going to be a recurring cost or a one-time?
Let me check on that, if it's going to be a recurring cost, if it's a one-time cost.
Yeah, and could you also check if that the regular appropriation that we made, the 3.5 million and the 3.8 last year, how much longer are we going to pay that $3.5 million. Mr. Chair, while they're doing that, can you just please check my page 75 goes, and page 76 seems to be talking about GIDA, but there's no beginning for the GIDA section.
Yeah, so it's blank for some reason, but it's worse. 76 is still DOA.
It's DOA?
I believe so. Yes. Appropriation to the Department of Administration for Wichita. Appropriation to the Department of Administration for enhancing tourism.
To pay GIDA.
Appropriation to the Department of Administration, the Guam Bureau.
Okay. Oh, I have questions about that then.
Okay, thank you. Just wait till she says. 1 minute recess. Committee of the Whole is back in order. Before we went out, Senator Terlaw, he had a question on reoccurring appropriations and others for DOA.
Hi, Senator Terlaw, to answer your question. FY27 will be the last year of a 5-year contract for the FMSI system. The $560,000 being requested, it's like a license that you pay continuously to utilize the system. That amount would amount to about $560,000 for FY27. Bear in mind also that there are change orders in the making, which will not extend the contract period, but would extend the service requirements of the program going forward.
All right, so was that for Part B only?
For the $560,000?
Yes.
Yes, that would be
So you're
for
saying that
27.
we're now, this is a brand new section and we're paying for the 5th year of a 5-year contract. How were the 4 years paid? We didn't have to do this before. Is that what you're saying? Because this $500,000 could be used.
Yeah, I guess the way I understand it is that when the system first started, I guess the software was already there. It was part of the system. But as you go forward, utilizing the system, the software needs now to be either purchased or needs to be purchased in order to continue to use the system.
Yeah, but how was it paid before for the whole?
I think it was an outright appropriation.
No.
Included in the maintenance costs. It wasn't separated. It was included.
Right. This was a procurement made without legislative appropriation approval or anything. They did it on their own, and then after a little while, you started including it in the budget. So what about the Part A? My question was, how long is that going to be extended? If my time could please stop. Just trying to get answers to the questions I already asked. The Part A was also, how much longer do we have to pay that?
For the software?
Part A, well, you said Part B is for the
No.
software.
Yeah, the 3.5.
And it ends in 2027.
The 3.5 million being requested in the FY27 is the last year of payment for the system in 2027.
Okay, that's for Part A. And so for Part B,
again,
are they the same?
yeah, all they're saying is that they just need to pay for the software in FY27. Whether or not additional software is needed in the future, that remains to be seen. I don't know.
All right. On the next section is for Wichita. This is appropriated to DOA. Didn't this used to go to GCC? And then the section 16 is we're going to give $100,000 from the general fund to the Department of Administration to pay the Guam Economic Development Authority for the Enhancing Tourism Aesthetics Program. These are the special projects here now I see. This is for the $5 million credit for Tumon. We're now going to pay DOA instead of GIDA for the administrative fees, and DOA has to pay GIDA. And then the same thing, section 17 is a $300,000 appropriation from the Tourist Attraction Fund to DOA to pay GIDA for procuring and overseeing an independent third-party GVB review of effectiveness contract, I guess, another a consultant to tell us about GVB. But I've seen a hospital consultant hired by GIDA, same authority given here, and that report was ignored. I've seen a Manila building consultant hired that is also being ignored, especially by this body. And so why are we going through DOA to pay GIDA? I've never seen this before.
Yes, Senator. I think the reason why we did this way is because it was my understanding that we don't appropriate to GIDA. So
Pardon?
that we don't appropriate directly to GIDA. So doing it to DOA is just a pass-through to get the funds to GIDA.
Because when the bills were passed, at least one of those was a passed bill, it was not funded, right? What Gita kept asking for, that they were going to incur costs. That was not funded when that bill was passed, but still allowed to be passed. And this other one, is this a bill that's passed, or did it have a public hearing?
Thank you, Senator. That's your
Section
time.
17.
Mr. Chair, on a point of information,
Yes.
just based on Article 15, appropriations for WICHI, that is dues that we have been paying for almost a decade now.
Yeah, that's not my question. My question
thank you,
was
Senator.
it previously appropriated to GCC versus DOA?
Thank you, Senator. That's your time.
Yeah, my questions are still pending, Mr. Chair.
I understand. Your answers are coming.
Yeah, there is an appropriation to GCC and there is an appropriation to DOA for WICHI.
All right, but this is a new section. Great.
That's correct, Senator.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yes.
Senator. That's your time. Senator Barnett,
No,
you're
Mr. Chair,
recognized.
please, if he could
Yeah.
clarify. Oh, I have 3 questions
He
pending.
answered your question, Senator.
No, only the WICHI. He's saying, but
On the
he's-
point of information, Mr. Chair, if I may,
Okay, do
as
we
it
start
relates
this
to
time now
WICHI,
because this is a point of information, Mr.
it's
Chair?
a point. It's
We
a
need to
point.
be consistent with the rules. If you,
Senator, do you wish to use your time later?
Who?
Yourself. Are you going to
Well, I
speak on
was
this
just
section?
wanting to bring a
this is a point of
justification based
information,
on the
it should-
inquiry that
they
was
should be
asked.
treated the same way I was treated, Mr. Chair.
I am managing this, Senator.
So
Thank
point
you.
of clarification.
So, okay, so
Are
we
you-
should start the time then.
No.
Yes. Are you planning to speak on this?
Well, sir, I
section?
just wanted to do a clarification just based on the question that was asked, because I have personal knowledge as the author for the Barada Act, which the WICHI money goes to for GCC, and then also for the 189,500 that goes to DOA for the annual membership dues. And I just wanted to make sure that that clarification was there.
Thank
that
you,
was not my
Senator.
question, Mr. Chair.
Thank you,
I
Senator.
I'm
yield my
telling you,
time to
ma'am.
Senator Terlahi.
Thank you. Senator Chalai, you have 5 minutes.
Citos Mossy, Senator Paris. I'm just waiting for my answers.
Yes, we are too.
Yes, the appropriation to GCC, Senator, is for their medical program. The appropriation to DOA is a membership fee.
Yeah, my question
For which
was, is this different than last year's budget,
Yes, it is.
right? Yeah, why
Yes.
is that if this is a program we've been in?
Originally, the fee was paid by a federal grant. This year, it's paid out of the general fund.
Okay, so that's an increased cost, right?
Yes, it is.
189. And then the questions on number 16 and 17? Or 17?
16, Senator, is based on a
Mr.
public
Chair.
law, and 17 is not.
Mr. Chair, I just want
Point of
to
order,
do
she
a
had her
point-
time
Yes.
already.
Of-
Point of
Senator-
order.
Again,
Yeah.
for
Point of
clarity,
order.
Hold up, hold up.
I
please.
just want
Both
to bring,
senators, please, Senator, please. Okay. Let me be clear once again, okay? We will be recognizing your time when you wish to do any points of information. You used time earlier to facilitate this so everybody knows how to handle this again. I will yield my time to you to be able to make this point, and that will be all of your time, Senator. Please proceed.
Me?
Miss-
Don't I have the floor?
She called a point of information. Senator Paris said, be consistent, use your time. So she used her time for her last point of information. I am now giving her my time to be able to make this final point, and all of her time will be gone. Senator
You
Barnes,
mean
you're recognized.
Point of inquiry is what you allowed.
Yes. And I'm making her use my time for that, and she will have no more time.
Does she have a point of inquiry?
She is providing.
Sir,
Yes.
That was for our membership dues. I secured a grant for the first 2 years. The federal government cut the grant, so now we have to pay for it, or else 90 local students who are in college
I
now
don't hear
will
an
have to
inquiry,
do.
Mr. Chair. Point
Sir,
of order.
We'll cut
Point of
about
order.
1.5 million currently benefiting the tuition reduction. So that is the clarification, and I guess I'll lose my time, but I wanted to make sure
Point
that
of
was,
order, Mr. Chair.
stated as a fact of information and why there's funding now that's in the appropriation.
Thank you, Senator.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There was no inquiry in there. There was no point of inquiry. It was simply allowing her to debate in the middle of my time, completely, again, inconsistent with all rules. Again, just reflecting, I guess, the majority's consent to do whatever they want.
It was a
That's
point
how
of inquiry
corruption
and the
begins. That's
time
why the
is-
people of Guam don't trust us,
Yeah.
because
Senator,
we
do
changed
you
the
have-
rules in
Are
the
you going
middle
to
of the...
continue with your line of questioning, Senators?
Pardon?
Are you going to continue with your line of
I'm
questioning?
still waiting for my answers, yes.
So stand by for your answers, or we use your time.
I thought I provided the answer for both 16 and 17, Senator.
All right. Could you repeat it then? And we got interrupted, if you didn't notice.
Okay, for Section 16, it's by law.
It's what?
Section 16,
Yes.
it's basically being appropriate because it's by law. Public Law 38-114.
But there's no law that says we were going to appropriate for the costs that Gita said we should not have passed the bill until we address the costs, right? There's no law that says we needed to appropriate for those costs. You're just doing that as a favor for the person who sponsored this measure. What about Section 17, please? This was the subject of a bill?
Again, the appropriations being made at the Department of Administration as a pass-through for the funds to get to Gita.
Yes, but is this new policy the subject of a bill that has had a public hearing?
I believe, Senator, the law that provided this program also provided a provision for administrative costs, and that we are providing this amount based on what the law said.
Did it say the legislature is going to appropriate administrative costs? No. Are you talking about number 16 now or number 17?
17.
Okay,
I mean
17.
16.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, there was no mandate for an appropriation in there, but on number 17, that's what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Can you please stop the time? We're just on the same question. And a point of inquiry, as the same way it's being used by these other senators, is that for the law, for Section 16, it says Gita may allocate up to 2% of the total value of tax incentive authorized under this article within each fiscal year for administrative verification and reporting expenses. It shall be considered part of the overall annual program's cap established. shall not be charged to or deducted from any applicant's approved incentive amount. And we've already accommodated the $5 million up in the tax credit portion. But anyways, we're still on number 17.
Senator, right. Senator Lai, this basically was a request given to the committee, and maybe what I can do is I can refer this over to Senator Lujan for further clarification information on it.
All right, my question was whether there was a bill that had a public hearing that authorizes us to put this in the budget bill, because I believe there's a statute in the Title II Guam Code annotated that says the budget bill cannot have unrelated items unless it's been the subject of a bill, right, that has had a public hearing. That's why I'm trying to confirm that.
And hopefully Senator Lujan will provide some information on that, Senator.
Senator Lujan,
Mr. Chairman,
you will use your time for this?
Thank you. Yeah, point of information. Yeah, as well. There's a letter on the drive by Gita asking as such, and you can access that. I think it's uploaded already. It has been uploaded, so they can access that. And Mr. Chairman, this is on 16, because I can speak on 17 as well. But 16, of course, colleagues, this legislature already made the policy decisions to create this program, because we recognize, of course, that the government cannot revitalize Guam by itself. The private sector must be a partner.
Are we on section 17? That's the question. That's my inquiry.
I was answering 16. That was your inquiry, right?
My inquiry that's pending right now is on section 17, whether there was a bill that had a public hearing that purported to authorize things like this.
Yes. Senator, your time.
This provision, Mr. Chairman, as a result of months of oversight hearings, discussion with industry, stakeholders, conversations with businesses, and countless hours spent trying to understand one simple question, Mr. Chair. What would it take to save Guam's tourism industry? Colleagues, tourism is too important to Guam for us to let it continue on its current path. Each hotel worker, restaurant employee, tour operator, taxi driver, retailer, small business owner depends on a healthy visitor industry. When tourism suffers, the entire economy suffers. Just in the Korean market alone, you're going to see a...
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but I don't think this is relevant at all to my inquiry.
I've given you a lot of latitude. He's using his time, Senator. I've given you extreme latitude. Please continue, Senator Lujan.
You're allowing him to debate in the middle of my time.
I am allowing him to answer your question.
But the question is very simple. Is there a bill that had a public hearing, yes or no?
Question, you could say that, Senator, and continue with your time to explain.
As I said, this is a result of months of oversight hearings. If you made the last one, you would understand as well. If we are honest with ourselves, the warning signs are all over and around us.
Mr. Chair, point of
Walk
order.
down the streets of Tuman.
I did not ask him to yield. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Chair, is there a bill that had a public hearing that authorizes us to put some unrelated item into our budget? Because there is a statute that prohibits that. Because they don't want writers in these bills, not even budget bills, unless they've had a public hearing. And this goes very, very far to say things that no one has vetted. That, first of all, it says we're going to take $300,000 from GVB. We're going to give that to DOA. They're going to pay GIDA. GIDA is going to go hire an independent third-party GVB review, and they're going to conduct that in coordination with the Guam International Airport, the Bureau of Statistics and Plans, OPA, and the legislature. An independent review in coordination with the legislature. How does that work?
Senator,
and the GIDA shall submit the report.
Senator, as per what I did with Senator Perez, and she's correct to let them use their time, she used her time for a full explanation on a point of order. I am giving the same courtesy to Senator Lujan to use his time for a full explanation.
No, you are allowing him to interrupt my questioning to OFB with explanations that are not relevant to the answer is a yes or no question.
You asked the question,
is there a
so
bill?
we
I
defer
would
to
assume the
Senator
answer is
Lujan for
no,
his time.
since nobody can say that there is one. There must not be one.
And he can use his time to answer that at the end of his explanation.
I am not
Senator
asking
Lujan,
any
you're
question
recognized.
anymore, Mr. Chair.
I call for a recess, Mr. Chair.
The answer is very
We
clear.
are in recess. Please complete your answer to this question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this proposal here basically didn't come from a bill, but bill is not needed. This is about saving 45,000 related jobs in an industry that is dying, that we see before our eyes. Is this body prepared to have the people of Guam, again, the vacuum that will be created by an industry that is dying? Is this body prepared to have every single taxpayer to tack on an additional $2,500 in their taxes on an annual basis from the vacuum created from the death of tourism here in Guam? We see that happening. All the hotels on Hotel Row are up for sale right now. We talk about the military buildup. That is a saving grace right now at this point. If we want to save this industry the way it is, the way that GVB is being run at this point, it's a model that is not working right now. We talked to the experts in the field, and they all agree, and this is a result of numerous oversight hearings, not only with the Guam Visitors Bureau, but also with the Airport Authority. And if folks were there, they would see, I mean, even the airport is needing subsidy at this point. What is that telling us? It's telling us that we're not filling seats. It's telling us that their tourism industry is dying here in Guam. That is why this thing is important, Mr. Chairman, is to save jobs. 45,000 related jobs here in Guam. And of that 45, quite a few of them are not working anymore, Mr. Chairman. This is about families. This is about feeding their families. This is about livelihoods. This is about mortgages, car payments, student tuitions. We take it for granted that the hotels are there and therefore it's full. It's not. We team up with the private sector to help them as well because they need the help. I've entertained this past year, Mr. Chairman, folks that are looking at possibly new ownerships for hotels. They drive down and they said, never mind. We don't want it. That's the state that we're in, Mr. Chairman. We are in a bad way. And the industry that we thrived on years ago is an industry that's dying before our eyes. Do we want to save it? Do we want to save jobs? I want to. But if this body doesn't want to, then okay. It's going to be on your shoulders that this industry dies.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. Senator Talaya, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. I can't wait to use my time in that way. First of all, it's so irrelevant to the question of whether there was a bill that actually had a public hearing that allows us to break the law, which prohibits in 2 GCA 2108, unrelated subjects on an annual budget bill, or only one supplement to the annual budget bill shall be the same subject matter as a bill which has been discussed at a duly noticed public hearing, unless the public hearing is waived due to the existence of emergency conditions. That hasn't been done, and that's why I think that the experts referred to by the previous speaker, the jobs and the employees in those jobs referred to by the previous speakers are not going to be saved by any provision like this, especially without a public hearing, one done by one man's will, without the consent of the industry as to how that independent study is going to be made. And to include a legislature into their independent study, that they must coordinate it with the legislature, sounds the furthest from independence if we're going to debate the merits of this non-bill that's being allowed, should have been ruled out of order, Mr. Chair, by your committee. It's illegal to include this in this bill. But you want to rule appropriations for those who are very vulnerable. We want to decrease appropriations to treatment homes, the Manamco daycare centers, but we want to sneak in provisions here that have not even had a public hearing for programs that have not even approved by anyone, not even the legislature. And so I know everybody thinks, oh, we're going along with the gang and we're going to approve this, even though it breaks the rules. But this rule has been in place since, it's a law, it's been in place since 2009, precisely because legislatures were sneaking things into the budget. This is exactly why GVB went back and forth with the authority of whether the board approves travel or the executive director approves travel or the board approves travel, because that was also snuck into one of the budgets without a public hearing. Changing the rules for GVB. And I don't object to a study that is going to be done independently. I don't think this, the way it's written, looks independent at all. I think it looks suspect that the chairperson of tourism wants to include himself in the independent study. And that he wants to say that if we don't fund $300,000 to DOA to pay GIDA to procure an independent study that no one has agreed to the parameters of, we're going to end up with a useless document again. One that there's no consensus on because there's no consensus from the start. One that no one will trust because it's snuck in an illegal way again. So I just think we should just do. He wrote an article to the letter, to the paper that he wants to do this. We'll do a bill. And let's hash it out. And let's let the industry experts come in and tell you how independent your study looks, if you get to have a hand in it. So I object to this provision, Mr. Chair, and I think you should rule it out of order based on 2 GCA 2108. It's in violation of the law.
Thank you, Senator. On Department of Administration, Senator Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I kind of want to talk about this realigned study too, because I'm hearing some of the rhetoric around this bill, like, of this provision. If we don't give this $300,000 for the study, the entire tourism industry is going to die, and that's on us. Like, that's a pretty incredible claim. So, it's leading me to some questions. Why is the GVB realigned study routed through DOA to GIDA instead of being procured directly by the OPA, OFB, or the legislature? Excuse me, sir?
Say again?
I have a question for OFB. Why is the study routed through DOA to GIDA instead of being procured directly by OPA, OFB, or the legislature?
The way the provision is written, Senator, and as I stated before, we don't appropriate basically directly to GIDA. So the way to get the money to GIDA, as we've done in the past for other programs, is that we appropriate it to Department of Administration. Department of Administration then forwards it over to the appropriate entity.
Yeah, but why not go directly to OPA, OFB, or the legislature? Why do this work through GIDA?
Because the way I'm reading this, it's in coordination with those 4 entities. Not one entity is going to oversee it.
And who will write the scope of work for the independent consultant?
I assume Gita will take that task on.
We're assuming that, but where is this written anywhere? Like, I see nothing that says who is going to be in charge, who's going to be running it, who's the point of contact. Who will select the consultant? Is that Gita as well?
I would assume Gita will do that, sir.
Will the consultant be selected through competitive procurement?
I guess once all the guidelines are set up for this program, you would kind of delineate and dictate exactly how this is going to all work out, which includes, I guess, the RFP, the type of RFP, the funding mechanism, everything else.
What safeguards ensure the consultant is truly independent if we're going to be having the legislature involved in the mix of this? How independent can this truly be?
I'm not sure I understand your question, Senator.
What safeguards ensure the consultant is truly independent?
I guess that would be the decision of the committee upon the review of the responses for that RFP.
Will the procurement require disclosure of any financial, contractual, political, or familial relationships with GVB leadership, GVB board members, or list legislative body?
Senator, the only thing I can say is whatever the guidelines and rules that GITA come up with for this program, I hope will be abide by.
How was the $300,000 amount calculated? Is that based on a cost estimate, a prior study cost, vendor quote, or is that just OFB judgment?
Give me a second, Senator, to get the... I believe, Senator, based on a previous study, a similar study that was made, that cost rounded up to $400,000. I think this particular study, they're estimated the cost to be about $300,000.
So we're basing it on a prior study then, because no scope of work has been done on this at all.
That's what I've been told, sir. Yes.
I want to ask some questions about the Government Claims Fund. The substitute bill includes $100,000 from the general fund to DOA for approved government claims with quarterly reporting. How many approved claims are currently pending payments?
That, Senator, I would have to go into the department's budget and hopefully that information is there.
What happens if approved claims exceed $100,000?
I believe I think what DOA does in the past, they've only paid out to the amount that's appropriated. Anything in excess of that, I think they will hold into abeyance until such time funds are available to cover those costs.
Okay, because for me, that just seems like a very low amount, so maybe you could help clarify for me the history of claims appropriations versus actual claims paid. Is there a big discrepancy there? Like, are we appropriating 100,000 but only 50,000 is being spent? What is the picture of the last 5 years look like?
I don't have an expenditure trend right now, but the $100,000 is what is requested in the EBR, so we appropriated and met their requests.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you didn't meet the request. I'm just, curious myself because, I would think that there would be more claims than 100,000, and so I was curious about it. The substituted bill appropriates $5.2 million to DOA for payment to GPA for public street lights, using $4.19 million for streetlight fund and about $1,030,000 from the Guam Highway Fund. What LEAC rate was assumed for the public street light appropriation?
I would assume, Senator, that these amounts were pegged on the information that was provided when the EBR was developed. That particular rate, I think, fluctuates. It depends every month, every 6 months, whenever GPA feels there's an adjustment that needs to be made based on the current prices of fuel.
Yeah.
I don't have that information, though, right now.
There was a question I asked a few days ago, what is the cost per government for every cent the LEAC goes up? Mm-hmm. And you don't have to necessarily do it now, but I think something like that would be useful not only for yourselves, but for the body as well, because, we get reportings on when these LEACs go up and down, and if we know that government expenditures are going to go up by $30 million for every 1 cent the LEAC goes up, that's useful information for us to plan around buffers. And, when we see, hey, LEAC's going to go up a certain percentage, we have in our minds kind of what this effect is government-wide. Because, if 1 cent up is going to affect everything, right? Or a couple cents up, 10 cents up, 30 cents up, whatever it is, it's going to affect the expenditures of, it's going to affect everything. So, my question is if the LEAC rises, will this appropriation be short? And how much does the LEAC have to rise before a lot of these energy expenditures are going to be completely inadequate and we may need to go back to a supplemental budget? Because at the very least, if we get to a untenable level, you could trigger like an automatic supplemental budget or something like that, That's what I'm thinking about, just because of how inconsistent energy prices in the world are and how much we're tied to them. And I'm out of time, but I guess I'll ask my questions in future rounds. Thank you, Steve.
I have a point of information, Mr. Chair.
Your point of information?
Yes, to the inquiry regarding the government claims. Isn't there a $167 million of claims pending right now versus the Guam EPA because of dieldrin exposure?
We'll have to get that information for you, Senator.
All right, well, I got that number from the newspaper, and I think it's wide knowledge, and it's strange that OFB doesn't know about it or is not acknowledging it, and the budget does not acknowledge any of those who are exposed to dieldrin.
Has that been adjudicated, Senator? Is there a judgment?
I don't know yet.
Is there a judgment?
I don't know,
Did the
sir.
newspaper say there was a judgment?
I don't know.
Okay. If there's not a judgment, there's not a bill. On Department of Administration,
But there's a
Senator
claim.
Barnett, you're recognized.
There is a claim.
There is a claim that's not been adjudicated.
That's
Senator
correct.
Barnett, you're recognized.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Guerrero, I'd just like to first go back to the appropriation for the residential treatment fund. This was one of the issues that Director Carlson brought up in his laundry list of complaints about the substitute budget bill. So can you just again state for the record how much additional they had requested for this residential treatment fund?
Yes, Senator, their ask for FY27 was $1 million more than their current FY26 level.
So we couldn't give them $1 million more?
No, sir, not $1 million, but we gave them 300,000 more.
How many millions are we giving the businesses with a business privilege tax reduction of 0.5% included in the substitute bill, Mr. Guerrero?
The total equate number for the 0.5% is roughly about $43 million.
So we're giving $40 to $43 million again to the big businesses in this substitute budget bill, but we could not give $1 million to help our people struggling with substance abuse addiction? Mr. Guerrero?
If you want to analyze it that way, Senator, yes.
Aye, a day. So we couldn't give $1 million for substance abuse treatment, but we could give $40 to $43 million again to the biggest of the big businesses. I guess our people struggling with substance abuse addiction are just going to have to go cold turkey. Mr. Guerrero? Because as you know, we're having a little bit of an issue with crystal methamphetamine on our island. So it just goes back to priorities. I swear when I look at the social media and I see all of these campaign commercials from my colleagues in here, they say they're running on change. But this budget bill is status quo and worse. So maybe they mean they're running on change like it's going to get worse. Or maybe they need to put asterisk that actually we're running on status quo. We want to keep things the same. And then with this Guam Visitors Bureau study, felt like I was listening to a horror podcast in here, talking about if we don't pass this $300,000 study for the Guam Visitors Bureau, I mean, the scare tactics, it's frankly ridiculous to say if we don't pass this, our people are going to have to pay an additional $2,500 in taxes to say that if we don't pass this, all the workers down in Tumon are going to lose their jobs. Respectfully, I don't think we need a study to tell us what the issues with tourism are. It's pretty simple. Not Gus Gus Guam. We have to clean our area. We have to clean the bathrooms. We have to maintain the parks. We have to shift away from the luxury tourism model, like the duty-free thing, that's died out everywhere across the world. And we have to shift to an eco-tourism, a cultural tourism model. There, can I get $300,000? This just stinks of special interests. Is this another AI contract where we have to involve the legislature in this study to make sure that our PARI or our PRIM or our political buddies are going to be the ones to do this study? And yet we're telling our kids with autism, we're telling Gumat Mommy, we're telling the veterans, make do with the status quo. Because when you talk to the people of Guam out there who are getting ready to vote on the first day of next month, they don't want status quo from us. They want improvements. They want priorities that reflect the needs of our people. And that's not what they're getting in this budget bill. Our people aren't even in the back seat. They're not even in the car. They're not even in the car that the Republican majority and the big businesses are driving down a $40 million road. Mr. Chair.
On Department Administration, Senator Tadigui, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, can you tell me on line section or number 5, Guam Claims Fund? Can you tell me if there was a balance of, well, basically any liability? How far behind are we in paying out these claims to people who won their fight against the government of Guam? And the last time, and I guess the next question would be, the last time the Guam Claims Fund, which is now funded $100,000, which was funded last year for $100,000. I mean, yeah, $100,000, and then I think the year before. But when was the last time we increased this? And also, just explain what the Guam Claims Fund does.
Hey, Senator, regarding the government's claim fund for fiscal year 24 and 25, total appropriation for both of those years was $75,000. Beginning in FY 26 and in FY 27, that amount was increased to $100,000. The purpose of the government claim fund is to cover all claims made against the government by individuals or businesses that feel that they've been wrongdoing or have a case against the government. This is the fund that pays for those claims.
The balance of what is the liability, because once the 100,000 is done, right? They have to wait. Whoever the claimant is has to wait another year in order to get paid. So what is the liability balance?
Right now for FY 26, there's a total of $100,000 appropriated. What has been expended to date is around $45,000. They expect to utilize the whole balance by the end of the fiscal year.
And would there be any additional claimants standing by waiting to get paid after they pay off
I would not, I don't know that, Senator, at this point.
I think there is. It's something I think we need to know. I'll find out through DOA after this. Let's go to number 13. So you know I have an amendment to discuss this one, to be placed in, again, the debt service fund, because like the last one, this is a lease back, which is also claimed in the debt service section of the beginning of Chapter 1. And I just want to be consistent, you know, placing these appropriations in the correct location so that we see these debt services and all of them in one area, so it makes it easier. And I do realize that this was actually in Department of Administration for years. The reason why it was here for years is because it was actually a tax credit at the very beginning. This is my understanding, that it was a tax credit first. And then there was a public law that turned it into a leaseback situation that now allowed it to be collecting on funds and not tax credits. So it really shouldn't be in here anymore. It's no longer a tax credit. It should go to that debt service again. Now, my calculation on this Series 2014 lease revenue, the facilities, Guam Facilities Foundation, Inc., Series 2 2014 lease review, can you verify, Steve, if that's what Section 13 is?
I can verify, Senator. Yes, Senator, the appropriations that you see under Section 13, I believe there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 are all part of the TGN lease requirement to cover the cost of the lease for FY27.
It is Series 14 lease revenue, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it is correct.
2014.
So do you have any reason why it's still staying? I mean, I realize it's been here for years and nobody just paid attention to it because once upon a time, like I said, it was tax credits. Now it is a lease back, just like how we've done on debt services at the beginning of Chapter 1. So do you have any problems putting it in? Or wouldn't you think it'd be more appropriate to put it in Chapter 1 instead of this location? And I just wanted to verify, Steve, because according to GITA, that obligation, yearly obligation is $10 million. If you can write this down, please. $10,113,928. Is that correct?
That is the amount that we have, Senator, in the chapter.
Okay, because I just added up Section 13, this section, number 13, not Section 13, I'm sorry, it's number 13 on the TZN, and the numbers are not jiving with that 10,113,928. We can take 1 minute recess, Mr. Chair, while they calculate that, because I think there's a mathematical issue here.
It's the same level.
Because we're getting something from GITA showing it's 10 million, but when we did the 10 million, that amount I said, it's different.
According to them, it's the same level of 24. the balance, the budget's balanced. So maybe offline you can do the calculation, but it's balanced in the budget.
I'm sorry, Gita is saying the amount that we owe on this lease back is 10,113,928.
Yes, Senator, and
But-
that is what is showing in our system.
Okay, so number
if for some
13
reason,
adds
yeah,
up?
so
Number
it's-
13
yeah.
adds up all the way through?
Yeah, so
There are
they
A,
can,
B, C, D,
yeah,
E,
they
F,
can
G?
show you in the system where it balances to that amount.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'll talk with them offline on there. And that's really what I wanted to verify there. Okay, that's it, Mr. Chair. I'll just wait for that answer offline. Thank you.
Thank you. On DOA, anyone else wish to speak that hasn't spoken already? Seeing and hearing none. Colleagues, we will take a lunch break. It is almost 1 o'clock. We will be back at 2:30.